here's Brody Brazil.
I think if you were going to draw up one single headline to describe the San Francisco 49ers season so far, it would probably look like this. Things have been way more interesting than they actually needed to be. You're talking about a team that was in the Super Bowl, obviously lost to the Chiefs, but basically kept the band together. And all they're trying to do is get a second crack at it here in 2025. Off the field, on the field, you could say way too much unnecessary drama. Everything from the holdouts and the hold-ins of training camp to Ricky Pearsall getting shot on the final day of August, the Christian McCaffrey injury. I say that's an off-field thing because he never actually made it on the field yet so far this season. But then on the field, like in-game action, not being able to hold leads, having some really frustrating losses to Arizona, to the Rams, 49ers' lack of red zone execution and also third down conversions. There's just been a lot of things that didn't need to happen, didn't need to make this season as interesting as it's been so far. And so with a 3-3 record, now we finally get to a week 7, which has been circled on the calendar and which inevitably is the most interesting game, I think, of this weekend. And you could say the Texans and Packers meeting up, 5-1 versus 4-2. Lions and Vikings, obviously Minnesota still 5-0, undefeated, taking on Detroit, who's been very good. But the Chiefs and 49ers, the rematch of last year's Super Bowl, last season's Super Bowl, in a game where once again the 49ers had a double-digit lead, they could not close out the Kansas City Chiefs and have not beat the Kansas City Chiefs since the 2014 season. Obviously, the last 2 Super Bowl losses, Miami and Las Vegas, are what sting most, but I want to begin this with the biggest possible picture and viewpoint of this matchup right here. And we'll take it from the 49ers' perspective. If you win this game on Sunday, it does not erase the last 2 Super Bowl losses. You might feel better in the moment, but the history on those Super Bowls is already written. Now, it does give you some momentum in this season. You're 4-3, and you've got Dallas and then the bye week, and then maybe you get McCaffrey back after that. Maybe your roster, which is a little banged up. You're already on your 3rd kicker. My goodness, maybe things change because of this win this weekend and this game if you win. Maybe it's a potential rallying point for the rest of the season. And maybe you overcome some mental perceptions. This has been a roadblock, and it hasn't been necessarily a David and Goliath matchup. The 49ers did get smoked in that game 44-23 in the 2022 season. It was close for a while, then the Chiefs and Kelsey just took over. But the point being, this is a game and a matchup that you can win, you just haven't been able to do it. So maybe it does help you overcome some of the mental roadblocks that you just can't get past the Chiefs. And they might be there again this year representing the AFC. But this win also doesn't get you to the playoffs. This win doesn't assure you of anything. If you get it at Levi Stadium, it makes you feel good. It makes you feel redeemed in a lot of ways, and it can help, but it doesn't provide everything. Now, on the flip side, if you lose, you're back to a losing record this season. It kind of feels like if there was a spiral of questions and concerns and doubts, maybe that spiral tightens a little bit. And I think everything will be viewed under a more competitive microscope after that. Mahomes, Purdy, the receivers on one team, the receivers on the other team. Maybe special teams are a factor, one way or another. But it goes like this. If you lose this game, you still have to beat the Cowboys, and then your best case going into that bye week is a 4-4 record, which still just does not sit well. And that's why this game, it's got a lot of backstory, it's got a lot of meaning, but it's got a lot of importance here and now. And again, you look at the 2018 season, 2019 season, I'd take 2019 Super Bowl, 2023 Super Bowl, the 49ers just have not been able to beat the Chiefs. And let's just say it, 10 years. They don't play every year, and some years it's just the Super Bowl, but 10 years San Francisco's not been able to defeat Kansas City. And it's also an interesting time in the 49ers season. What lies ahead? Yeah, the Chiefs are undefeated. That would also be a feather in your cap. The first ones to knock them off. Then you get the 3-3 Cowboys, then you get the bye. Things don't get a lot easier for San Francisco following the bye. Tampa Bay, Seattle, again, who they just beat, but are still 3-3. The Packers are 4-2. The Bills are 4-2. The Bears are 4-2. You do get the Rams, who right now are 1-4. Their one obviously came at the demise of San Francisco. Then the Dolphins, but then the Lions and the always interesting Arizona Cardinals on the road to close things out. So you've kind of already gone through that portion of the schedule and, handing one to the Patriots. And you've already played the Jets opening night, Monday Night Football at Levi's. But losing to the Rams and Cardinals, it just kind of stains where the record is at. Losing to the Vikings, everybody else has done that so far. So I'm not here to say that that's perfect, but that's a more understandable. And that was a competitive loss out in Minnesota. Okay, let's move on to Brock Purdy, because we saw this back and forth between the media press conferences in Kansas City and in Santa Clara. The Chiefs defensive coordinator, Steve Spagnuolo, said that he didn't think Brock Purdy has a weakness. Quote, "I can't find a weakness in this quarterback," which is an interesting thing to say because last year in the Super Bowl, in regulation, Brock Purdy and the 49ers were held to 19 points. So that's just one game, and I understand Spagnuolo's looking at the body of work of Brock Purdy, and to a lot of degrees, he's right. Brock Purdy actually head-to-head with Patrick Mahomes this year has comparable and or better stats in a lot of categories. In fact, when I look at Brock Purdy's season, it's less about what he's doing. It's more about what he's sometimes not getting from his offensive line in terms of protection, pass protection, and also receivers flat out getting open. Their separation has not been tremendous this year, and it's come and gone in spurts. But I look at it less about Brock Purdy and more about who is and is not helping Brock Purdy so far this year. But I'll take it back to Spagnuolo saying this. Why would he come out and comment about the other team's quarterback and pump him up and pedestal him so much? Spagnuolo's been around the NFL since 1999. That was the year Brock Purdy was born. This seems like a bit of gamesmanship. Again, Purdy this year has not individually struggled, 271.5 yards throwing the football per game. That is the third highest among any team. San Francisco is right there in the NFL. So Purdy's been getting the job done. Again, in my opinion, it's less about him individually, more about his surroundings. And look at the 49ers' overall total passing yards, 1,629. That's an average of 13.5 yards per reception. That is among the best in the NFL. The 49ers are at the fourth most passing yards in the NFL, behind Seattle, the Texans, and the Cowboys, which, by the way, that makes it interesting because the 49ers are about to see a couple of those teams in the very near future. But they're also not punching it in the red zone. 49ers this year, in terms of scoring touchdowns when they get in the red zone, they're only doing that 44% of the time. That's 25th, I want to say, in the NFL. Last year, they were doing it to a 68% clip. So last year, majority of the time you're in the red zone, you're going to score a touchdown, 68%. This year, less than 50%, only at 44%. And yeah, you could say, going back to Brock Purdy, what he has, what he doesn't have, sometimes it's been the performance, sometimes it's been the strategy and the execution, but sometimes it's been the injuries. And Deebo Samuel still dealing with a little wrist thing. Jordan Mason, in terms of running the football, he's got the shoulder issue, an AC joint sprain. As I'm recording this at the time, I don't know the status of anybody here. Juwan Jennings sounds and seems like he's going to be out with that hip injury. He got sandwiched. Missed the practice on Wednesday and on yesterday, Thursday, as I'm recording this. So that opens the door for another conversation here about Ricky Pearsall, who I talked about earlier, was shot in San Francisco's Union Square, August 31st. The bullet went right through his pectoral region. This is amazing. 51 days between August 31st and this Sunday. 51 days to have a bullet entirely pass through you. Now, he was back out there with the team and on the field for their Monday night game, not dressed up, but like walking around, carrying a football, taking photos, smiling, physically active, like not being cared for, with no ill effects, amazingly. I still don't understand the science or the physics of this. I mean, it is tremendously great. I'm not going to ask too many questions because we're all happy with the fact that he's doing very well. He's doing just fine and could return this year. And that's another potential tipping point of this season. I know it may not seem and sound like the thing that can turn a team's year around. And yeah, when you're 3-3 and you have a couple bad losses and you just haven't had traction yet, maybe this is the type of, even the Seahawks win, not entirely convincing. A win on Thursday Night Football. You get the nice long week now to prepare for Kansas City, but still kind of waiting to have that convincing win. Maybe the Patriots week was, but that was against New England. But maybe Ricky Pearsall's return and emergence and presence, maybe that does something. And I've been saying this for quite some time. Imagine the moment that he does get isolated, singled out, and applauded at Levi's Stadium. That's going to be unbelievable. It's kind of unprecedented to hear about what he went through and where he's at and how fast he's coming back. So the Ricky Pearsall effect, I think, could be tremendous for the 49ers. And what does he provide on the field? You got me. They just drafted him. He's making his NFL debut. I think it's crazy to ask too much, considering all that he would be going through. But if Pearsall is in for Juwan Jennings, then it does have like some subconscious effect. And I like Juwan Jennings. I think it was really good in the Super Bowl last year. And Jordan Mason, if he is or isn't playing, I mean, that's also a big deal, considering where this team has been with injuries, without Christian McCaffrey. And oh, by the way, that's going to bring us to Anders Carlson, the third 49ers kicker of this season. Now, you may remember the name because with Green Bay, he was 2 for 3 in field goals last year in that playoff game against the 49ers where the Packers were eliminated. Jake Moody hurt his ankle, trying to make a tackle. Matthew Wright, shoulder injury, trying to make a tackle, both on kickoffs. Like, this is unbelievable. As I said before, the headline of this 49ers season is that it's been way too interesting. It's not supposed to happen like this. You're on your third kicker already? Anders Carlson is 26 years old. He was a Packers 6th round pick from last year. Rookie season, inconsistent, didn't necessarily go great. Lost a battle in training camp this year, and he was waived. He is the brother, by the way, of Daniel, who's the Raiders kicker. Carlson last year, 27 for 33 on field goals and 34 of 39 on extra points. Seems like missing 5 extra points, even of 39, is a little bit too much. I feel like 37 for 39 is a little bit more comfortable. I don't know what happened there. 34 for 39 and extra points in 2023. But I've also been looking at his range. That's a factor. Like, you look at this matchup right here for the 49ers. And without a kicker, it was the same problem when Moody got injured in the rest of that game. Hard to kick when you get on the opponent's side of the field and you don't have a kicker to do it. Obviously, Matthew Wright came in, but now he's out. Anders Carlson last year, from 20 to 29 yards, perfect 6 for 6. 30 to 39, perfect 14 for 14. Outside of 40 yards, 40 to 49 yards, he was 4 for 8. And at 50-plus yards, he was 3 for 5. His longest kick on a field goal last year was 53 yards. And so a lot of this game, I think, is about the 49ers. Can they be competitive? Can they be good themselves? Like, that is enough of a question. Because on the other side, you've obviously got Mahomes as the quarterback, Rice and Kelsey and Worthy, Juju Smith-Schuster, big play guy this year, averaging 16.3 yards per catch. The yak yards are huge. I know people don't like when I say yak yards because yards after carry yards is a little bit redundant. No, the yak is huge for the Chiefs. Hunt rushing the football, Isaiah Pacheco, Steele, another running back. They can do this in a multitude of ways. The Chiefs are undefeated for a reason. And I want to point out something that David Lombardi suggested on his YouTube channel. I was watching the other day. He put up a tremendous graphic, which I'm not going to steal, but I'm just going to dictate to you here basically what it says. And he got this from Pro Football Focus. Last year in the Super Bowl, Patrick Mahomes just chewed up the 49ers in the middle third of the football field. Wasn't outside left or outside of the numbers right. It was right down the middle of the football field between the numbers. Passes of 20 yards or greater, 1 for 2. Passes of 10 yards or greater, 3 for 3. A touchdown because of that, a long play of 53 yards. And 122 yards, going 13 for 14 within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage, right down the middle of the football field. Did have some success to the right side, 5 for 7, touchdown there within 10 yards, but mainly right down the middle of the football field when Mahomes threw the football and the 49ers were a little bit shorthanded defensively and on their secondary. You can obviously paint the picture of what happened there. So clearly these are two teams that understand each other, understand the weapons that each other have, but it's more about the question of the 49ers. Can they be the team they should be in this game, facing a Chiefs team which hasn't yet lost here so far this season? I'll close it out with the most important thing that you need to know. Taylor Swift will not be at Levi's Stadium this weekend. How do I know that? Might have been stalking her concert schedule. She is performing tonight, 18th of October, Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens, Florida. Same thing on Saturday night, 7 p.m. Same thing on Sunday night, 7 p.m. So it's not possible for Swizzle to get from Miami to San Francisco and watch Travis Kelce. Just not going to happen. Just thought you might want to know that. Some of you overappreciate that, by the way. Who cares? I couldn't care less. The cutaway shots, whatever. I've seen worse. I've seen dumber cutaway shots in sports all the time. So there you go. 49ers and Chiefs, the most interesting game of the weekend. One of the most interesting games of San Francisco's season, no doubt, but an overall way too interesting season so far for the 49ers. Hopefully they're on the right side of a 4-3 record after this Sunday. Thanks for tuning in. Thumbs up down below. Greatly helps me, this video, and this channel. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button down there so I can definitely see you back here next time.